In this video, I'm going to walk you through converting a book chapter manuscript to an actual book chapter, print ready and laid out. A manuscript is the raw text for an article, a chapter, or a book. It will be formatted, but it's usually formatted in a way that looks more like an essay or a document the author somewhat randomly may have formatted. It isn't necessarily following any particular style guide or conventions. Although the content is there, manuscripts need a lot of design work to get them print ready. For this video, I'm going to use a sample chapter from a book I'm currently finishing. It's under contract with Peter Lang, and part of my contractual obligations as the book editor is that I produce the print-ready copy of the book. I'm not doing all the print-ready work. Remember in the last video when we looked at the copyright page, for instance? The publisher is going to add that information later on down the road. Authors or editors doing their own layout and style work is becoming more and more common and conventional as publishing houses downsize and as the tools for book layout become more and more common. For this project, Peter Lang is using Word to do the formatting and layout of the book's contents, which is fairly typical. For heavily stylized books, Adobe InDesign is the tool of choice. But for primarily textual content, Microsoft Word can convert an essayistic piece into a well-designed book chapter. I've linked to our NYU classes page the Peter Lang formatting instructions, a 22-page document that provides the information we need to design this book chapter, along with a second document, which is a sample design template for a chapter. I'd encourage you to take a quick look at both of these before watching the rest of the video. You'll see in the formatting instructions that the publisher asks authors to format a sample chunk or chapter and submit it for review. I've already done that, and it was approved, so now I'm ready to format the rest of the book. And we're going to use Chapter 7 as an example. First, per the formatting conventions, we're going to set the page margins. So I'm going to select Page Layout, Margins, and set Custom Margins. The formatting instructions require that the top and bottom margins be set at 1.625 inches, and that the left and right margins be set at 1.875 inches. I click on OK, and there we've adjusted our margins. Next, we're going to set the font. I'm going to hold down the Control key and the A key to select all of the text in the entire chapter. Then I'm going to set my font to Goudy Old Style. The formatting instructions suggest 11 points in size, so with all the text still selected, I'm going to change it to 11. Next, I'll set the line spacing. You never see double spacing in a print book. It's just too much blank or white space. Here, the publisher suggests line spacing 2 points larger than the font face. We just set the font face at 11 points. So with all the content selected, I'm going to go to Paragraph. I'm going to set the space between paragraphs at 0 point and 0 point. And I'm going to set the line spacing to exactly 13 points and click on OK. This is actually starting to look like a book. The instructions require full justification. So with everything selected, I'll set this to full justification. The instructions note that including 2 spaces after a period is unnecessary because of the full alignment and the way in which computer text is spaced. So I'm going to use Control F or the Find feature to find any instances of 2 spaces and replace them. So I'm going to select Replace. I'm going to look for instances of just 2 spaces actually. Replace them with 1. Click on Replace All. 329 double spaces replaced. I'm going to save this at this point since I made quite a few changes. I'm going to close the Find box. The instructions say that the indentation of paragraphs and block quotes should be 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to select A again, and on my ruler bar, I'm going to pull out that top marker to 1/4 inch. Perfect. Now I'm going to have to fix some of this, but for the body text, this is exactly how it should look. The instructions also note that block quotes should be indented left and right and set at 9 points with a 12-point space before and after the block quote. So let me see if there are any block quotes in this chapter. And there's one. So I'm going to select the text of the block quote. I'm going to pull it back over so it's indented 1/4 inch on the left margin and indented 1/4 inch on the right margin. With the text selected, I'm going to change the font size to 9 points. I'm going to go back to paragraph, and rather than exactly 13-point breaks, I'm going to change this to 12. There we formatted our block quote. There aren't any lists in this chapter, so I can skip the next chunk of formatting instructions. There are, however, subheads in the chapter. All of them are formatted the same, and because I've edited the chapter carefully, I know they're all A-level subheads. So I'm looking right now at page 8. And it looks like the A-level subheads are formatted in upper and lower case. This is all caps. So I'm going to use this key. Oh, we don't want sentence case. We want capitalized each word. Art books without artwork. I would have to check my style guide, honestly, to see if without should be capitalized or not. I'm suspecting, oh, it should not be. I'll have to go back and double check that. But now that we've converted this to upper and lower, our level A subheads are centered. And then the publisher suggests a 12-point break. So I will leave that at exactly, a 12-point break before and a 6-point break after. There's our spacing. That's just the first one. I'd want to go through and make this change on all of the subheads throughout the entire chapter, but for now we'll do just that one. One of the key things this chapter is missing and needs is a running head. The formatting instructions suggest that even page running heads include the page number on the left margin with the running titles center aligned. Odd page running heads include the page number on the right margin with the author's last name center aligned. And I don't want a running head on this first page. So I'm going to select Insert, Header, Edit Header. I'm going to make sure that different first page is selected. I'm going to scroll down to the second page. And this is going to be my even page header. So I want to go back to paragraph and, back to page layout and margins and make sure that I have the margin set for the header correctly. Because this is an even page, I need the page number. So in the design tool, the header and footer design tool, I'm going to select page number, current position. Then I want, and I already have a center align in my ruler bar. I'm going to tab. This is even page. So it is the running title, which is permissions and precedents. I'm going to highlight this. It's an Arial, but it should be set to Gaudi. 9 points. The formatting guidelines also tell me this should be set to all caps. So I'm going to convert that to uppercase. Now I'm going to go down to my odd page head, but let's make sure, yep, different odd and even pages. Here I want to be center aligned. Westbrook and Ryan are my authors. I can create a new tab set over on the right margin, tab over, insert, page number. This is set to Gaudi and 9. This should be all caps, so I'm going to go back and adjust that. And the next thing that I need to do is move this header down on the page. So the page layout margins tool lets me set the margin for the page, but it doesn't let me adjust the margin for the running head. For that, I'm going to have to go back to Insert, Header, Edit Header. And we can see in the Header Footer Tools design, one of our options is to move the text down. We need to move it down to 1.625. And there we go. Now we're going to need to create a break. And the formatting guidelines suggest an 18-point break after our header. We can go back to header and footer tools, close. There we've got our running header even page, running header odd page, but because these are different, you'll see we have to go back into this and set the break, the 18-point break, here too. And now all our headers should look similar. There's no footer on the page. The last thing that I'm going to do, now obviously there's some more work to do, but the last thing that I'm going to do is go to the end of this chapter and delete the references section. The reason why I'm doing that is because for this book, we've condensed all of the references into one final chapter because quite a few of the authors cite the same sources. So this way, rather than having the same person cited in 12 of the 25 chapters, we have just one citation way in the back matter of the book that readers can find their way to from the parenthetical citations in text in the chapters. Next, I'm going to work with the figure in this chapter, as there is a figure. If we look on page 18 of the formatting instructions, there's some guides to including figures and tables and more. This chapter doesn't have any tables, but it does have this figure. Because we changed the margins, the image got pushed all the way to the right margin. I'm going to click once on it to select it. I'm going to right click or command click if you're on a Mac. Make sure that the text wrap is set to square. I'm going to pull the image in. It's referenced in this paragraph up above. I'm going to manually toggle the figure title down. I'm going to change the figure title to 9. I'm going to make sure it's center space, and it's kind of awkward, so I'm going to manually shift enter and space that out. Now my figure is correctly placed. Now I'm going to go back to the very front of the chapter. The specifics of the chapter title and intro information are included in the second sample document I posted to NYU classes. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up that sample document, and I'm going to copy and paste the formatting information into my chapter. I'm going to change chapter 1 to chapter 7. The title is Permissions and Precedents, a cautionary tale from the culture of art publishing. Doesn't look too bad. I'm going to put in my author's names, Steve Westbrook and James Ryan. There are a couple things I know I need to change now based on that sample chapter. First, I'm going to change the paragraph spacing to 18 points below. I'm going to save the authors. I'm going to change the authors' names to 14. I don't think I want them in bold. Now I'm going to get rid of this information since I've included it above. I'm going to go back to that sample chapter, which I still have open, and I'm going to grab the style for the first line. I'm going to paste that in, but change it to capital I in this chapter. Move that back. And there I've got my chapter information. Chapter number, title, authors, initial drop cap. And now I want to go through and do some of the finishing work, make sure everything looks right, format all of the level A subheads and more. But we just took a pretty plain, basic manuscript and converted it into something that looks quite a bit like a book chapter. There's a lot we're not covering here. You guys saw I had to toggle between the actual formatting instructions and a sample document to get all of the clues and cues that I needed for how this document needed to be laid out. And we didn't even talk much about setting page styles in Microsoft Word. We can set styles in Word and actually set a style with just the click of a mouse rather than going through manually and highlighting and manually changing the style for every item. I hope you'll go through the rest of the 2 sample documents, the formatting instructions and the sample chapter template. Please start a forum conversation if you want to raise some questions or talk about other considerations for book page design. What this video did cover, and I hope you found helpful, were some basics in following a publisher's formatting guidelines and preparing a print-ready, laid-out chapter of a book in Microsoft Word.